Good evening and welcome to the Parent Forum, Maintaining a Safe School Environment at the High School. This is the high school principal, A.J. LaPretta. I want to welcome you. I'm in the conference room here at a safe distance from our superintendent, Dr. Patrick Daly. So the purpose of tonight's Parent Forum was to just give parents an opportunity to check in, ask questions, get some feedback and some perspective from myself and Dr. Daly. I want to thank you. We have got about almost 30 people on the call. One of the things that I did in the invite or in the notice about this was offer an opportunity to provide some ideas that might shape our conversation, or at least get us rolling this evening. So I just want to give you a quick update on that. We had the most people interested in asking about health and safety protocols, and then specifically the hybrid learning model, and then around the same number of people looking for information about athletics, extracurricular activities, and then kind of a general all of the above. So you also had an opportunity to provide any specific question that you would like to have answered. So we've got some questions here, and I think one that really stands out, which is probably on everyone's mind, is will school continue in a hybrid mode? And I will start off our forum tonight by answering that question. Yes, at this time, it's a simple answer, but yes. But it is a yes with an asterisk. And I think that asterisk speaks to our collective ability to keep doing what we're doing, maintain our adherence and vigilance with respect to safety protocols, but also recognize that the transmission of the virus is growing, and we are not where we were, let's say, months ago or even weeks ago with respect to the amount of virus that's out there in the community. So again, will we continue with the hybrid model? I would say yes, but that has so much to do with, the collective and how we all respond. One of the things I think that really is a characteristic of our town and our school communities specifically is that sense of commitment and community that we have to each other. Having been in a number of other school districts, and I know that other people that are on the call that have also been in other worked at other schools, North Reading really does stand alone with respect to our shared commitment, and I think that's again part of that asterisk of will we continue? We need, I think, to kind of recommit to those things that are going to help keep everyone safe and keep us in offering in-person learning into the future. Dr. Daly, you want to add to that?
Sure. So thank you, Mr. LaPrette. So, my role tonight, I just want to underscore just a few things with everyone. And this is something I'm going to be, sending out to the entire district as well. But we wanted to focus especially on high school, as the numbers we've seen. Fortunately, the students haven't been in school, but we've had close to 30 student positive cases since December 18th. And that's a very high number. That's something that's very concerning to us. It's concerning. I report these stats to the Department of Education, and it's concerning to them about us remaining open with those numbers. Now, what's very clear to us as well, and we work, as you've heard me mention, I work with the Board of Health, the Director of Public Health nurse, town administrator, police chief, and fire chief. We meet regularly, weekly. We are still not seeing those signs of transmission in school. We've had a couple of, out of all the cases we've had 2 cases where there's a possibility of some transmission in school, and we've investigated further to understand that better. So the good news is we're not seeing that transmission in school. We're not seeing one student coming into school and it passing on to a student who's a close contact or to a teacher who's a close contact. That is not something that we're seeing as common. But what is very clear, and what we've said all along, is as we watch the town getting into the quote-unquote red, there's a certain number of weeks where we have to watch to make sure that the schools are safe for our students and our staff. And I think it's very important that as those metrics have changed, those maps have changed, we want to make sure that we are, continuing in the direction that we need to continue in. So a few things that I want to make sure we reiterate tonight. First of all, North Reading has not seen what we've seen in some other local communities where there are large parties or large gatherings. To my knowledge, that has not been an issue. And I think we've seen those headlines where the large party becomes, let's just say of high school students. We then don't know whether it was transmitted in school or off campus, and they've had to make decisions about closing an entire school. We have not had that issue. But what has happened, as I mentioned, we have not seen that transmission in school. But what has happened time and again, when we look through that list of 30 and the other high school students, we're seeing that it is those small gatherings, those 3 to 4 students coming together. Very often, the anecdotal stories that we're hearing, they're friends. They've been friends since kindergarten. They hang out all the time. Everybody comes together. Everybody's asymptomatic. And then, whoops, we find out one student tested positive, and then everyone gets it. And that's what's happening. We're seeing, transmission in families and siblings. And so again, what can we do to prevent that? And that's really just limiting even those small gatherings to the extent possible, not having them indoors. And if there are any kind of gatherings indoors, we have to wear the mask and keep the distancing of 6 feet like we're doing in school. Because I think we do let our guard down when we're home with our family and with our close friends, but that's where we're seeing the spread. Again, not seeing it at school. And the other important message in a similar scenario is the carpooling. So if we could reinforce with our students, especially high school students, the way we say wear your seatbelt and all those things, wearing masks in the car when you're not with people in your own household, as much of a hindrance as that can be to our normal activities, this is what we have to do. So my main message tonight is, the answer to that question, do we remain in hybrid? At this point, we do not want to go full remote like we're seeing many of our other districts doing. I think there's a commitment from the parents, from the teachers, from the students, from the administration that we believe the hybrid model and getting to see students in person is the best thing, to see students in person for a certain number of days a week. First and foremost, number one, we want to preserve the opportunity for students to continue to learn in our hybrid model. Number two, we want to be able to continue our students to participate in sports and other performing arts and other extracurricular activities. And number three, we do also want to have the opportunity in the future, the near future, hopefully, when things get better, of having spectators and the like at certain events. But I want to be clear, because I did hear from a good number of parents in a very well-organized correspondence, but we can't let number three disrupt number one and number two, and we certainly can't let anything disrupt us from our goal of remaining in person. So I can't control the numbers for the town. All of our behaviors can control that and do the best we can. But I think it's really important to underscore, conversations I've had with our teachers union in the last week and then again this week. I think it's important for me to underscore again, our teachers union has been fantastic, cooperative from day one. If you look around at all these other towns, we have a great record of being in school and not going to full remote at all this year. There's not a lot of districts that can claim that. And my goal, and I know everyone's goal, is to keep moving forward. So these are the things, these are the times that we need to recommit and double down. And I know that students and parents and families and teachers, everyone is at the end of their rope right now, emotionally exhausted, and saying that, we just need this to end. But I'm here to say, and I'm going to reiterate through a correspondence with everyone, I see, the next 6 weeks as being so critical. The conversation, getting through the winter, getting towards the spring, getting towards vaccinations and all those positive conversations where we can start seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. But this is the time to make sure we're doubling down on all of our efforts to be safe. And so, to put it from a teacher's perspective, where they're seeing the frustration and teachers don't have the option to come to school to work from home, right? Teachers are committed to being here every day. That's how our schools remain open. Our students do have the ability, if they're sick, to stay home when they're supposed to be in person. And we are seeing a bit of a trend at the high school especially of more students just not coming into school. And it's not uncommon for a teacher to have a class of 20 with 17 students at home and 3 in person. Mm-hmm. And that's not really, in some ways we designed our system very well so that that flexibility was there. And again, if someone's sick, they should be staying home. If someone has a personal health risk, they should be staying home. But essentially, if you're in cohort A and it's a cohort A day and you're not sick, we need to be in school. And so we need to make sure that our students are coming into school and being here, because at some point, why are we having this hybrid model with the in-person option if we're not taking advantage of it? So that's part of what I want to make sure I reiterate to our parents today. Our teachers are committing to being here and to having this moving forward. We need to watch those metrics in town. But what's changed since the summer, originally it was when we're a certain number of weeks in red, you go out, right? And then we said, well, what if the red just refers to a cluster at the nursing home? We don't want the schools to close, right? And so that was clarified. But where we are now with what the governor's put out, what the Department of Ed has put out, it's really that link to the transmission in schools. So if we're not seeing the transmission in schools, which we're really not, we are still committed to staying open. But we do need our parents and our students to just double down on their efforts to make sure that that comes through. And so you'll see a letter in the North Reading transcript this week from our teachers union that is making a similar request for everyone to just get us through, to set our sights on what lies ahead and to make sure that we're all in this together and moving everything forward. Things have been going well, but this is the time, those numbers are concerning. So when you start seeing, even though the students haven't been in school, when you start seeing that number of high school students testing positive, we want to make sure that all of our behaviors are focused on keeping the numbers down. So I'm certainly here for other questions, but that was the part that I wanted to reiterate this evening. So Ms. LaPrette?
Thank you. We have, I'm gonna offer this. I think this is a question that would cover a lot of interest in the health and safety protocols. Referencing commitment to cleaning desks between classes and the cleaning that goes on in the building. And certainly, the cleaning measures that we've taken so far, I think have done a tremendous job. The strategies that we have in place with transitioning from the wipes and still using the wipes in certain classes to the spray bottle, to the hand sanitizer and all of those things that, certainly there's an expectation that those same protocols happen every day and the desks are cleaned between every class. And there may be reports that students are saying, gee, I don't know if I recall being asked to clean my desk as much as I used to. I can certainly tell you that I will certainly recommit to that idea that that happens every day. I have not heard of those specific cases, but the question is offered here. So I'm letting you know that we haven't made any formal change in any of those cleaning protocols. Certainly the expectation is that happens, and I certainly in the instances that I've seen, that is happening. But again, I will certainly reiterate that across the board in the coming days. Absolutely. We have a question here around the messaging, Dr. Daly. If positive COVID cases or email notifications, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So the question is just about, when we say the student has not been in school recently, and I understand that's a bit of a vague term. It's because I've been communicating in sort of large numbers, right? So some might be a certain number of days. But essentially, what I'm trying to communicate out to everyone is whether there's any need for anyone to be concerned about a close contact. So if a student has not been in school, we do not do the close contacting because they haven't been here. So they still may have contacting for outside events, sports, families, other things through the town, but we do the close contact tracing for school. So essentially what happens when we identify a positive student, if the student was in school, we go back 2 days. This is not a North Reading procedure. This is national guidelines that are followed. We go back 2 days from the point of when they took the test or when they first developed symptoms. And that's what we decide. We go back those 2 days, and then we determine who was within that 6 feet for 15 minutes or more, and those folks are the close contact. So the other part of this question was, how is a close contact defined? So we've used that threshold. That has really held well for us, and it's keeping the students at the 6 foot of distance and following that procedure, we have not seen that transmission in schools, as we've said. And so our goal is to continue with this, to keep our schools open, to remain open, and then eventually, if we do get to a place where there's other, other pieces in place down the road, things are looking better, the numbers are looking better, that's when we would start to discuss any changes. But for now, we are committed to our hybrid model, as I explained about, I guess it was in November, the last time we had a parent forum like this.
Thank you, Dr. Daly. We have a couple of questions here that I'm going to kind of link together that speak to stands being open for spectators and then other steps that might be in place to accommodate the fact that we do not have spectators at site events right now. So certainly, as Dr. Daly has been speaking, so much of the conversation has been around what's been working and how we maintain as safe an environment as we can. And that certainly speaks to de-densifying all areas of the building, so we have this kind of 6 foot spacing, and making sure that we recognize the priorities of keeping the building open at a time of greater transmission, allowing kids to participate in athletics and activities at a time of greater transmission, and then that third priority of allowing for spectators to participate in site events. So, the question is, why are the stands not open for games? And again, I would say the answer to that is because we do not feel that that's going to be a step that is going to allow us to effectively continue in the hybrid model that we are currently in. We feel like that's taking a risk that could then jeopardize the other two higher priorities, and that is maintaining our hybrid learning model, and then obviously allowing kids to stay participating in athletic programs and other curricular activities.
If I could jump into, I think Ms. LaPrette and I both are, coaches, parents. I have family that have kids that are seniors. I see it. I talk to them. I hear it all the time. We totally empathize and understand how important it is to get spectators. We had it in the fall. It was successful in the fall, but there is a big difference between outdoors and indoors. And we've really closed our schools. Our schools, as you know, if you come to drop off a book, there's a different procedure for that this year. And so to have, because the events are in our schools, it's just a different idea. If someone comes in and everything's fine, but again, if somebody comes in and then we let a couple of parents in and then those parents test positive, we don't want that to in any way jeopardize the students on both teams playing. We don't want, other teams may not come and play in our schools if we allow fans. So there's a lot of hurdles that we're trying to overcome. Again, we want to keep it open. We want to keep that idea out there that when things look better, we'll get to that point. But at this time, that's where we are. Now, something that hasn't been going well is the electronic piece of it. We do have a solution with the recordings of the games. We've taken the time to install the cameras, to set them up. We have had some technical issues, and I can say that our tech team has been troubleshooting that. They worked on it last week. They worked on it yesterday. Mr. LaPrette and I were down there today with the coaches, with the tech teams, continuing to work on this, because it's really unacceptable to have as our alternative a live stream of the game, and then that live stream is not working. So we apologize for that, and we are going to take every effort to correct that, because you need that workable alternative to the problem, and we're well aware of that. So we did want to apologize for that. Yes.
If you were watching the JV2 game today, we started out with the huddle stream. We tried in the second half to jump to a kind of a live feed off a video camera directly to the YouTube channel. That was not going as smoothly as we thought it would, but there's been a lot of research, and as Dr. Daly said, kind of man hours, person hours devoted to troubleshooting and strategizing and next steps. But it's we even have a new piece of equipment that's on order we were recommended from one of our vendors today to add in, and that again was very positive that should help, if not to resolve any issue completely. So that we ordered that today. So again, we're right there with you. We understand the frustration, and hopefully we'll have a better product for you very soon.
Other question.
So we have another question here. Here's how bad does it have to get to go full remote? And that is a question I am going to share with Dr. Daly.
Yeah, so once again, I'll just reiterate what I said earlier. I'm working with the Board of Health on a weekly basis, the Director of Public Health and the Public Health Nurse as representatives of that board. They reiterate week in and week out that the schools, not only are the schools safe, but they feel like the schools are among the safest places for students to be. The rates of transmission in school are almost zero. The amount of positive cases that are happening because someone's at school are basically at zero, and that's not what we're seeing when students are home. So we want to be very, very clear that schools are not only a safe place, but they may be the safest place. And if all students are home and remote, our students coming together. I've heard some reports of, when students are home, on their Zooms, another student who shouldn't be in that house pops in the Zoom. I mean, so these are the kind of things that kids will do and things that will happen when kids are home. And, when you're supposed to be home on your remote days, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be at our own homes, keeping our distance. But I think that there's a strong commitment for us to remain in school. So the question of how bad things have to get, if I see one transmission at a school, I'm doing an investigation. If I see that a student gives it to another student who's a close contact, or I see someone have that, we have an investigation. If we determine that this is conclusively happening in school, then we have a conversation with that school about what we do, and then we go beyond that. So again, we are not seeing that happening at this time. And once we do, that's a different kind of conversation. The other consideration, obviously, is if there's too many people, because in addition to the positive cases that I'm reporting, we also have close contacts. Close contacts, you need to be out if you are, a close contact. And so if we have too many staff members who are out on either quarantine or as a close contact, we run the risk of not having enough adults to open the building safely. So that's another factor. And then the third factor, as I mentioned earlier, even though the being in the red is tied now through the Department of Education's guidance, the Department of Public Health guidance, and what's come out from the governor is tied to that transmission in school, there's still a concern. And we do have a teachers union and many other unions that we work with very closely who are keeping a close eye to these overall numbers in the town, because there's a certain amount of risk in anything that we do. So we want to make sure that everything that we're doing to keep those numbers down is moving in the right direction. So it's a delicate balance. Like I said, we want to keep that moving forward. But everyone right now, we're committed to remaining open. So I don't see, where we are right now heading that we need to go to remote. The people feel safe in the schools. Students, the teachers need to feel safe in the schools because of that low transmission rate. So that's really where we're at, but we need to keep, as I mentioned earlier, and as you're going to see in the article in the paper, we're all in this together, and we need to keep to those behaviors that are going to make our schools continue to be safe. Any other questions, Mr.
So that is the last of the questions that have been provided via the Google link. It'll open up to the floor now if anybody has a question they want to share to the general group at this time. So just as we have a little bit of dead space right there, let me just kind of go back and look at the specifics that were offered as far as topics you want most covered. Hybrid learning model, health and safety protocols. We certainly talked about the health and safety protocols. We certainly talked about, as the design, the hybrid learning model and what that means with respect to attendance. And again, to reiterate, as Dr. Daly said earlier, we can look at study after study after study and experience after experience after experience to say that students learn best when they are in a school setting with a content specialist expert in front of them, leading that instruction and allowing the student to explore and learn and grow in that space, in that model. And again, that is really what is really driving all of these requests around ensuring that you do everything that you can, and quite possibly a little bit more with respect to keeping that idea a viable one with our hybrid model. We covered athletics a little bit and talked about spectators. Certainly with respect to athletics moving forward, we're kind of rapidly approaching what is being called by the MIAA as the wedge season. And that will be kind of mid-February to mid-April. We also talked about, I guess again, participation in other extracurricular activities that then might lead to the possibility of on-site events. But again, all of those things are kind of delayed right now with respect to spectators so that we can move past the spike that we are in here in mid-January. So those are certainly the topics that people expressed as of the most interest. Again, opening an opportunity now for a general question from people that are on the call. Anybody? All right. At this time, then, we still have 40, over 40 people on the call, which is great. I appreciate your, your time this evening, and looking to see if there's an additional thought. Dr. Daly has an additional thought.
Yeah, I just wanted to say and to thank you to Mr. LaPrette for doing this tonight. We are starting to field some calls already from parents, and we're definitely involving our students in this discussion as well. So Mr. LaPrette met with the students and went over this message last week, and this call tonight is really a follow-up to that. But we're going to continue to involve, our student officers and our student leaders to help, keep this message moving forward, because we're very much already thinking about, spring events, senior events, all of those. Things that we had to really address last year, the loss that we had last year because we weren't in person. And so again, we want to do everything possible to continue. We've had very good success from now and from opening in the fall up through January, and we want to continue that. So those things are very much on our radar. We want to have as many opportunities for students as possible, do something that might look a little bit different, but that still meets all those needs for those high school events that are very critical to their development. And so we're committed to that. Mr. LaPrette's already working on that with parents and with students. And so again, let's do everything we can do to make sure that happens.
Okay. All right. Well, I again appreciate everyone and thank them for their time this evening. Certainly, if, as we end this call, if you feel like, oh my goodness, I had your question didn't come to you until right as we ended it, feel free to reach out to me. Certainly send me an email, or, feel free to call the office, leave me a message, or, you might catch me in the office specifically. I'm happy to speak with you and, talk about whatever your question might be at that time.
I did get a text from a parent saying that they possibly not able to ask a question. So try *6. You might be able to unmute yourself, or I don't know if there's a way to do it there. If not, if it doesn't work, we'll give people a chance if you want to try a *6 question. Otherwise, just tell us questions. So
I've got a question. Hello?
Excellent. Yes.
Yes, hello.
Sorry, yeah, we didn't know about the *6 thing. So my understanding is the state is going to start doing pool testing next month. Is there a plan in the works to get that done at our schools?
Absolutely. So here's the word on pool testing. Thank you for bringing that up. So I'm going to be presenting at school committee on this on Thursday evening. I sat through the webinar today. The teachers union is absolutely interested in us pursuing this as well. I sat through a webinar on this again today. So we have the Binax testing, which is in place. The kits arrived. That's for the symptomatic testing, and I presented on that recently. The pool testing will, you know, in my estimation, if I can sum up what pool testing would do, hopefully, it would be to lessen anxiety, right? And I think that people would then be able to know. We heard from districts, Watertown, Medford, Salem, districts that are doing this. Very low percentage of people that are becoming identified through the pool testing. But what it does is it gives everyone who's getting their results back, they can take a deep breath knowing at that moment in time that they're good. And with the frequent testing, it provides that ongoing sense of the schools being a safe place, that the asymptomatic carriers are identified, and it just lessens that anxiety. So we are looking at that. What's wonderful about the stimulus money that we're receiving is that the state is going to provide us with 6 weeks of testing for at no cost to us. There's some ancillary costs, and there's certainly a logistical consideration, but this is something we are pursuing. So provided the approval from school committee on this, we will at least be pursuing it, getting more information and joining in that. And then I will have a forum for parents and everyone to really explain what that would look like, what consent looks like with that opportunity. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
And apologies about the star 6 muting factor. Certainly had not anticipated that might be really restricting your opportunity to ask a question.
Okay. Any other questions?
Hello, Dr. Daly and Mr. LaPrette. This is Shrey. Thank you so much for this session. I did have one question related to what you said earlier, which was you had a concern that you had a concern that a lot of kids are staying home, and therefore the teacher is ending up teaching to a lot of more people. But at the same time, you also talked about the number of students being sick. So I'm a little confused on, you're saying they are probably getting sick at home, therefore they are better off at school, or what was the thrust of that message?
Sure. Yeah, so I can just reiterate my message there. It's a bit of a, it's a balance, right? So
I'll mute myself.
Yeah, thank you, Shay. So our system is very well designed in that, you know, our teachers from the get-go have approached, they're going to teach students so that the students can be either remote or in person, and essentially the teacher could be either remote or in person. So if a teacher is on a quarantine, we've had a good number of examples of teachers being able to continue to teach, and it's a seamless process. It's sort of a shifting of place as opposed to purpose, right? So we're still continuing and moving ahead, and that's served us very well this year. All that I'm saying is, what we don't want to do is for it to be a little bit too casual, where it should never be that someone's home because, you know what, I don't feel like going in today, I'll just learn from home. That's what I'm really getting at. It's certainly not happening all the time, but we really want to just reiterate with parents and with students that the reason why you should be home on a day when you're supposed to be in school is that you're sick. That's really the only reason. It shouldn't be that, you know, I feel like staying home today, or I'm nervous about this or nervous about that, because the way we've got everything balanced is that cohort A is here in the cohort A days, cohort B is here in the cohort B days, cohort D is in full remote. Cohort D is for those students really that have a pre-existing condition that don't allow them to be in school, right? And so we do allow that flexibility. I want that to remain, but at the same time, it should not be that for multiple weeks, you know, teachers are finding that more and more students are going in. And to be quite honest, if I looked at the data and shared it with you, you'd see an increase in the number of students who are not supposed to be remote but are remote as you go up through the high school. So when we think about what would be quote unquote typical senioritis, right? We all know about senioritis. There's more seniors that are starting as the second half of the year comes in now to say, you know what, I'm going to work from home today. And as convenient as we've made it, we really want to reinforce our teachers are here. We believe in the in-person for those personal conversations, those things that you just can't do remotely, we want to reiterate that when you're not sick, you should be in school. So I hope that helps clarify.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
GPS signal lost.
Was there another question? Okay.
All right, well, again, I appreciate everyone's time this evening. It's just about 20 of 8. We had some excellent questions and an opportunity to respond to all of them in a way that I hope was easy to understand and logical and sensible. And I hope you felt that this was valuable time spent. So thank you again very much, and I wish you well. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to email and we'll follow up with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.